Now we move to subtopic 10.2. But before that, can you explain how growth is measured? Yes, we can measure growth by using size with the parameters include length, height, width, surface area, and volume. Or we can use biomass to measure growth, either wet mass or dry mass. Under types of growth curve, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the two types of growth curve, absolute growth curve and absolute growth rate curve. Absolute growth curve can be plotted when a parameter is measured at interval over a period of time throughout the growth of an organism. It is the cumulative increase in size over a period of time. It shows the overall growth pattern of an organism. Absolute growth curve can be plotted using absolute parameter, example height, against time. A growth curve is obtained which has S shape or sigmoid curve. Most growth curve of an organism is sigmoid. Growth starts slowly at first, then a rapid period of growth occurs until reach maturity. Growth begins to slow down and stops. Absolute growth curve is divided into four parts or four phases. The first one is a lag phase, second, log phase, third, decelerating phase or linear growth, and four, stationary or plateau phase. The first phase of absolute growth curve is lag phase. Under lag phase, number 1, slow growth occurs due to very few cells at initial stage. These cells are actively dividing but actual increase in size is small. Organism is young or immature and start to adapt in a new environment. Second phase is a log phase or exponential phase. Exponential phase is a pattern of data that shows greater increases with a passing time, creating the curve of an exponential function. For example, if a population of mice doubles every year starting with a 2 in the first year, the population would be 4 in the second year, 16 in the third year, 256 in the fourth year, and so on. The population is growing to the power of 2 each year in this case. The rate of growth increase and proportional to the number of cells present because there is no limiting factors and the rate of growth is maximum. The third phase is decelerating or linear growth phase. Growth becomes slowed down and rate of growth takes place at constant rate. It is limited by internal factor or external factors. Example for the internal factors including maturity or genetic, while for external factors, it can be food sources, space, or competition. In this phase, growth decelerates due to either depletion of one or more essential nutrients or the accumulation of toxic byproducts of growth. For a typical bacteria culture, for example, these changes occur over a very short period of time. The fourth phase is plateau or stationary phase. In this phase, the organism has achieved maturity and overall growth stops. For example, the stationary phase of bacteria growth curve is often due to a growth limiting factors such as the depletion of an essential nutrient or the formation of an inhibitory product such as an organic acid. Stationary phase results from a situation in which growth rate and death rate are equal. The second type of growth curve is absolute growth rate curve. We can plot absolute growth rate curve when an increase in size is measured over a series of equal time intervals. Plotting these increments against time produces an absolute growth rate curve. Absolute growth rate curve is usually bell-shaped. What is meant by bell-shaped? Bell-shaped curve show that the curve increases up to a maximum point, then it decreases. Based on the figure shown in the slide, times or days interval used in the experiment is for every 3 days. For an example, for first 3 days, starting from day 0 to day 3, the height increase is 40 mm. Next 3 days, starting from day 3 to day 6, the height at start is 40 mm. And height at end of time interval is 100 mm. Thus, the height increase during the time interval is 100 minus 40, that is 60 mm. By plotting these increments, height increase during the time interval against time, it will produce an absolute growth rate curve. For the conclusion, before I end my lecture, there are two types of growth curve, absolute growth curve and absolute growth rate curve. Absolute growth curve is when a parameter is measured at intervals over a period of time, while for absolute growth rate curve is when an increase in size is measured over a series of equal time intervals.